The following content is sponsored and does not necessarily reflect the views of WATD Radio. Now, Paul Ponders on 95.9 WATD. Be a part of the show. Call or text 781-837-4900. Now, here's your host, Paul Solano.
Greetings. How is everyone doing today? My name is Paul Solano of the PS&L Marketing Group. And as you probably already know, I also wear another hat as general manager of Pearl Street Station Restaurant in Malden. Pearl Street Station was recently featured on America's Best Restaurants from Kentucky. And one reason is because of Chef Felipe Fitzpatrick and his culinary team. Chef Felipe is a loyal listener through this Odyssey app that we're on. So hello to Chef Felipe and hello to my daughter Ann, who's listening in California. Now, as I have continually stated over the past 10 shows, and this is show number 11, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to be on WATD in the slot of The Boiling Point with Arthur Boyle. Arthur is busy doing some grandfather things right now, but I am pleased to have Arthur as the executive consultant of Paul Ponders on ATD. And with us is Tim behind the glass. Tim, how are you today?
Doing well. Good afternoon, Paul. How are you?
I am doing well, thank you.
Right.
Now, Tim, I had the pleasure of listening to you. I was tuning in on Wednesday night, and I heard you on Miles Motorsports show, and you sounded great.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. It's one of my favorite shows to produce, my most favorite. Your show is nice, too. Don't get me wrong.
Good answer, good answer.
Thank you.
I know, but
Thank you.
It's okay. It's all right. I won't be in therapy or anything like that.
Good.
But it's
Good,
okay.
yeah.
It's all,
yeah, save your money.
There you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, really, you do a fabulous job, man. I also hear you on that Sunday show with Sandy and Keith.
Yes, Twilight Showcase Radio.
And karaoke, right?
I have a little segment called McKinney's Moment, and I sing a song like we're at karaoke. The rest of the show is not karaoke. It's real artists singing their music, and it's a lot of fun. Should have a live guest in studio tomorrow night, Matt Whipple, who's related to the late, great Sherman Whipple.
Oh, interesting.
Yes.
Very good. Yeah. That should be good. I just remember Mr. Whipple from the Charmin commercials.
No, I don't think any relation to him. No. They got away. No one yelled at them to stop squeezing the Charmins.
There you go. Yeah. I love it. And also behind the glass is Tom Gorman doing a fine job on news, filling in for Dave Cedrone. So, hi, Tom. How are you? I think Tom is off air, and he may have left the building.
Yeah, he's getting ready for takeoff. Yeah,
he's getting ready for takeoff. Absolutely. Well, that's great. So, again, I wanted to thank you for tuning in, and it really has been a great experience. Just an upcoming coming attraction on the Paul Ponders podcast. Rob Hackler, the co-host of South Shore's Morning News with Beth Foster, will be the Paul Ponders guest for an upcoming episode that is dropping at midnight on Sunday, next Sunday, on YouTube, and then it drops on Spotify and iHeartMedia at 7 a.m. in the morning. And we recorded the podcast the other evening virtually. And it really was just a great interview, as we would expect with Rob Hackler. He just does an absolutely fabulous job as co-host with Beth, but also as program director. And I want to thank Rob for having faith and belief in me to make this happen and to be in the spot of The Boiling Point. And also a shout out to Mr. Ed Perry as well. And we have a great Ed Perry story, Mr. Ed Perry story, in the podcast. So please tune in and listen to the Paul Ponders episode. And also, that's working out well. We may possibly have a call-in from Joey from the neighborhood, but if not, we'll have Shelley Wolf calling in as well, or we'll be calling Shelley. But just a quick shout-out. And, again, I want to thank Matt from Pembroke for texting me earlier in the week about a posting in the New York Post nice article regarding right humpback whale, and also the fact that Gotham Whale was mentioned, and also a shout out to Gotham Whale to Bob Hilberg, executive director of Gotham Whale, and PJ Cisuerta, Paul Cisuerta, whose father founded Gotham Whale back in 2011, I believe it was. But they're both actually at the Jenkinson's Aquarium right now, getting ready for something tomorrow for National World Whale Day. Say that 10 times fast. But they're actually there right now, and there was an episode regarding on Inside Edition all over the news about the young man from Chile who was on his kayak who was swallowed by a whale in the waters of Chile, and he's lived to talk about it. And Bob Hilberg and PJ Cisuerta were in fact interviewed by Inside Edition, and that aired last night. I missed it, but I'll be catching it on YouTube or on the Inside Edition website and all. So it looks like we do have Shelley Wolf on the line. Is that Shelley?
Yes. Hey there.
How are you? How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's a great day.
It is a great day in the neighborhood, and I just want to we have to say that this is the Pod Pro Entertainment Techie Toolbox segment with Techie Talonzo Amos and Shelley Wolf, global media firm owner of Toolbox Entertainment and a past Paul Ponders guest from episode 35.
Yes, hey there. How's it going?
It's going well. Hashtag
Good.
Indeed. And first of all, before we go into your segment, congratulations to the Philly Eagles, right?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. The Eagles rocked it out of the house yesterday and over the Super Bowl, and we had a great parade in the city yesterday, and the city is just beaming with love. So
that's awesome. The city of brotherly love, right? Isn't that what Philly is all about?
That is what it's all about, yes. And today I'm actually running an event here in Philly with as a nonprofit, because I am a co-founder of a nonprofit as well called SIMBY, which is Stories in My Backyard.
Oh, okay. So, Stories, you have to mention the website and get us some information on that.
Absolutely. We are at storiesmybackyard.org. We just became a nonprofit, and today we're running a promotion that's happening. It's called the Voices of Sisterly Affection, and it's an immersive traveling photo exhibit that honors Philly's Black music, her story, from Billie Holiday to Tierra Whack. We provide programming that is culturally relevant for teen photo programming, and we work with PSTV at the educational channel at the school district and the Free Library of Philadelphia. So it's a project to really support our youth and artists and share their roots and motivate them as the next generation of Black storytellers.
Wow. That is awesome. And just a quick aside, the first movie that I ever saw in a movie theater, my mom gave me permission. It was before they really had more extensive ratings, but my mom gave me permission, allowed me to see the movie, but it was Lady Sings the Blues.
Oh, very cool.
Billie
very
Holiday.
Cool.
Yeah.
We love our Billie Holiday, yes. Yes.
Diana Ross. Absolutely. Well, I don't want to cut into your many tool tips, and I know you have a busy day. And Ms. Shelley, what do we have today for any techie tips?
Yes. So today we are going to focus on, should you update right away, or when should you upgrade your technology? Every few months, or sometimes days or weeks, we know that we get all these notifications that say, update your phone, update your computer. But the real question is, should you hit update immediately, or should you wait? Well, today that's what we're going to talk about, is when is it smart to install those updates and when's it better to hold off. So sometimes the dilemma is, right, updates are essential for security matters, new features, and fixing bugs, but they don't always go as planned. Rushed updates can also cause compatibility issues, bugs, and even slow down some of your older devices. I know I've had that problem on my phone. I know many other folks have as well. And so a lot of times when a new version's released, they only find that their favorite app is no longer working the way that they had hoped it to. So when is the right way to update? If it says that it's a security patch update immediately. These updates fix all those vulnerabilities about the hackers that we talk about all the time that you could exploit your information. So when a major company like Apple or Microsoft releases an emergency patch for things that are like 0-day vulnerabilities, it's very critical to update immediately. That also being said, there's also times when things have bugs, right? So those bugs then start to feed in and start to make your systems act a little wonky, and we want to make sure that your systems are not wonky. And so if your system starts crashing frequently, it might mean that you need an update because you might have a bug. And a lot of times developers will let you know that that's coming. Also, critical compatibility updates. Sometimes an app or a program relies on the latest system for your system to work. So I know right now on the newest OS of Macintosh, the Sequoia, it's actually changing where a lot of computer programs are not working with it because those computer programs haven't kept up to those same what they call operating system updates. So again, it's really important to be careful when you update. Read about those updates and make sure you're protecting your stuff, but definitely focus on the security updates. Again, completely new versions of any of your operating systems, whether it's iOS, Android, Windows, Macs. If there's an update, again, to like the Sequoia or the Venturas and stuff like that, wait a little bit. So like, let's say your Windows update, say you're 11.6, and you need to go to 11.13, that's what's the newest one out, you might want to hold off and just wait until it's been out for a little bit so that they can work through a lot of those bugs and stuff like that before you actually update your system, so it doesn't cause any operating issues on your computers or your phones. Unverified updates, if you're receiving pop-up emails or updates and things just keep popping up on your phone, don't hit those. Those a lot of times are phishing things that are looking for you to update, and it might be trying to install a virus or a bug on your system. So again, be careful of pop-ups. Don't just click on them. And again, if something's creating and saying critical deadlines and might cause issues, don't hit those. A lot of times that is phishing. So avoid those updates that are look like they could be not what they're supposed to be. So again. And also the other thing is make sure that your system is plugged in when you're updating, because a lot of times your system, you'll get halfway updated and then your phone or your computer might not be fully charged and it'll shut down and you didn't really actually do anything. Another major tip that is so important people forget to do is make sure all your important files are backed up before you ever do an update, because if you do those updates, a lot of times it might erase or overwrite those your system, and you would hate for that to happen. Or if you accidentally hit a virus that's going to be downloaded on your system. So again, make sure to read update notes, wait for feedback, and schedule your updates strategically. So again, thinking about when you're going to update, why you want to update, but again, making sure those security updates are installed immediately so that you are not vulnerable to those crazy hackers out there. And then wait a few weeks before installing major versions. So again, take control of your device updates, review your settings today, and enable automatic security patches only, and turn off automatic updates on your phones, on your computers, and make sure that you plan ahead of time for that, because again, it will save you a lot of trouble in the end. So those are my tips for you today.
Well, those are, again, awesome tips. And
Paul?
Yes.
Can I ask Shelley a question?
By all means.
All right, Shelley, I don't personally have one. I've been an Android Windows guy, but I've noticed in the past on Apple products, they kind of have a way of forcing you to update because certain things here and there on the phone stop working the way they're supposed to until you do the update.
Correct. That is correct.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are I would recommend going online and just looking to see, if it's a major, I don't know, let's say it's your address book or, a major application that is phone driven, I would say updates, right? But I would say if it's an app that is, I don't know, maybe a social media app or something like that, I would probably hold off on that because, again, those bugs are going to get fixed pretty quickly. But, yes, Apple is very much doing exactly what you're saying, forcing these updates on people. And the problem is they're updating things so fast because, there's so many different bugs out there and hackers are trying to do things. So they're just trying to keep up with in front of the game, but they're really just like hitting it at that time, unfortunately. So
Apple seems to be the only one I see do this, though, where until you update, you can't even do like the little things. Like my phone, yeah, it'll tell me, hey, you've got an update to install, like software update, but things still keep working the way they're supposed to until I do it. It's like an Apple governing thing. It's like a system update, yeah, for Apple.
Yes. So, yes, that is their way of also controlling things,
it's
right?
Not cool.
So,
I don't like it.
It is not cool, and I'm with you. Apple's doing some weird stuff, and I
it's
also
a rotten
Apple.
Apple.
But I actually moved away from Apple. I use Apple computers, but my phone I did stop using because they were also known for making it known that they basically, after 3 to 4 years, will kind of start doing a lot of what you're talking about on those cell phones, so that forces you to go update and buy the newer model. So it is a tactic, and you're absolutely correct. Those little gremlins, they won't let you run even the basics of that until you do those updates. So unfortunately, I'm going to tell you, you got to do those updates.
Well, I hope, just to simplify this with the Apple speak and all, I hope you get to the core of the issue.
Yeah, and if you need more help, Tim, I'm happy to walk you through. I can definitely guide you on some of that. But yes, again, on the Apple stuff, as you said, it's more about forcing you to kind of kill the phone with some of those. And if it just continues not to work and you've done all the updates and you've done all the restarts, then it's probably time for that new phone.
Fabulous. Well, Shelley, I thank you. And how do our listeners in WATD land get in touch with you?
Yeah, so if anybody's interested in learning more, you can reach out to us at info@podproentertainment.com. And again, we're very happy to help.
That's awesome. And I believe that we'll be posting some of these very helpful tips from this show, maybe the past show, on our blog when I get to my blog on the PSNL Marketing Group and the Paul Ponders. So stay tuned for that, for those steps. Shelley, I thank you so much for taking the time, and I wish you the best with your fundraiser later on today.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. #Imagine.
#Indeed. Have a great day now.
You too.
Thank you. Well, as Arthur Boyle says, it's not time to make the donuts. It's time to pay some bills. So let's hear from our sponsors.
South Street Diner, located at 178 Nealon Street, Boston, is Boston's only all-night dining destination, open 7 nights a week for late-night eats. Yep, that's 24/7 in my book. Owner Saul Seidel has grown this former iconic Blue Diner to be the place to go for keeping the party going or filling your stomachs before you head home to the South Shore or the Cape and the Islands and listen to WATD along the way home. Ask Saul about his grandmother's banana bread recipe, the Boston cream pancakes, umpteen eggs Benny offerings, and tell him that Paul Ponders sent you.
Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Manakesett Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you. Have you tried Bryantville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that's steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Chicken wings and fingers and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Bryantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back. Thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD. The call-in number is 781-837-4900. And as I mentioned earlier, you could listen to us on the Odyssey app. Please download that. and listen in, like my daughter in California and Chef Felipe Fitzpatrick at Pearl Street Station Restaurant. And also, too, I want to give a shout-out to all those nonprofits out there. We heard from Shelley and a nonprofit she's working with in Philadelphia. We have quite a few down here on the South Shore. I want to hear from the South Shore nonprofits, and please email me at paul@paulponders.com, and we could give you a shout-out or some time in an upcoming segment on your nonprofit. And as I mentioned earlier about paulponders.com, listeners can go to paulponders.com to find subscription links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as finding past Paul Ponders on WATD shows. So I want to thank you again for listening and tuning in. And really, again, the call-in number is 781-837-4900 on the way down from the Malden Medford area. I heard Paul from Bridgewater call. I heard, I believe, Julie from Rockland, and Matt from Pembroke may be listening today, but we want to hear from you. And I think that really you may have some questions, because on this segment we have the financial wing of Olympic Proportion with Olympian and former Boston Bruins winger Dave Jensen, Senior Loan Officer of Reworks Credit Union, on the line. So Dave, welcome.
Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing well, my friend. How are you this fine day?
Doing great.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being on. Thanks for being on a little bit earlier. We'll take this into a commercial break, and then we'll finish going off into the Ron Dwyer show and all. But really, this is really a big weekend in Boston. Great for the tourism industry and all. But this is the weekend of the Four Nations Face-Off. And I just want to let our listeners know, if they've been listening for the past few weeks when you've been on, they know about your U.S. Olympic hockey career, and obviously the career in professional hockey in the NHL with Hartford, with Washington Capitals and the Bruins. But you have played on 4 USA national teams, and I'll just note those: the 1984 Olympic team, the 1984 Canada Cup team, the 1991-92 U.S. National Olympic team, and the 1992 World Championship team. So I'm looking at this as just a great opportunity for our listeners out there just to hear about your fabulous experiences in international hockey. So take it away, my friend.
Yeah, so it's an unbelievable weekend. I think it's in Montreal this weekend, and huge game tonight, Canada versus the U.S. If you want to watch world-class hockey, I would encourage you to tune into that. It's going to be a heck of a game tonight. And then I think it moves on to Boston this upcoming week, Paul, into the weekend for the championship series, which is going to be phenomenal at TD Garden. And I will say this, in all my experiences, I was young when I was on the Olympic team. I started I'm sure I made the Olympic team the summer after my junior year in high school, so I was 17 years old. And then at that point in time, it's about a 70-game exhibition schedule where you play the Russians 12 times, the Swedes 12 times. We played every NHL team, which was 21 games, and we were back and forth and all over the world. But it's the most amazing experience to put on the USA hockey sweater, especially back then, Paul, because we were a short while after the '80 Olympic team. As you know, 4 years can go by in a heartbeat, right? So there was so much excitement about the Olympic team that it was just an amazing thrill. Even though I never expected to be there, and then to have the honor of the next summer playing for the Canada Cup, which is now the World Cup, against the greatest hockey players in the world. If you want to talk about some world-class players, like today, the best players in the NHL, Canada, for instance, and back then, their centers, if you know hockey at all, their centers were Wayne Gretzky, Mark Messier, Steve Yzerman, and Brett Sutter, right? So, And they had Ricky Middleton on that team. Everyone knows who that is, right? But think about this, Paul. So, and we did the same with the U.S. We had many Hall of Famers on our team as well. But if you think about, you go to a training camp, they bring about 28 players, and they cut about 6 players. Canada cut, I believe it was 4 Hall of Famers from their team that year, meaning Dennis Savard, who's a legend, right? Scott Stevens, I'm sure everyone knows who that is. Rick Vive, who scored a ton of goals. James Patchy played for the Rangers. Brian Sutter, who coached the Bruins, was cut from that team, who was a hell of a player. And then Al Secord, people remember, from that team, right? So that's some quality hockey players that were cut. And it's just, to me, the Olympics was an ultimate thrill as a youngster and an amateur hockey player, especially following the 1980 team. But that Canada Cup was just something else, the World Cup, when you're playing against the best in the world. And if you look at all the teams, Russia, Czechoslovakia, Sweden, Finland, I mean, there's got to be 50 Hall of Famers playing in that tournament alone. It was just incredible hockey. Same with every team I've ever played on. The 91-92 team, just talk about relationships. If you watch the game tonight, you'll see that Tkachuk was on that team. Keith Tkachuk and his two kids are playing right now. Billy Guerin was on the team as the general manager of the USA hockey team. So it's just a unique fraternity, and playing for your country, there's nothing like it. Next to the birth of my children, opening ceremonies, and playing my first Olympic hockey game was the greatest thrill of my life, and I'm grateful to have those memories and those experiences.
Wow. That is just absolutely tremendous. And you also played on the 1992 World Championship team, right?
Yes, I did, and then that was quite a thrill too. That was over in Prague, and that's kind of like if I can remember correctly, it was a long time ago, but that's it's always a similar format. It's changed a little bit in the Olympics. If the NHL is going to be in there, they got to select a team because it's such a short window. But it's usually the same format when we played in the summer, the World Cup, like in August, leading into training camp in September. But these teams, usually you bring over like 6 extra guys and you knock it down. You know what I mean on that? So we were in Davos. We were in the mountains in Switzerland for, a couple of weeks training, and then to Prague for the World Championships, which, just the experiences of a young man being able to travel and be in those countries and play, over there. Hockey is huge. So is soccer, but it's the ultimate experience.
That's awesome. That is tremendous. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a commercial break, and we're going to hear from a couple of our sponsors and all. And when we come back, we'll be talking about the Four Nations face-off. How does that sound, my friend?
That sounds great, Paul. Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hang tight there.
Sure.
Now, a message from our sponsors.
Have you tried Brianville Pizza Kitchen? From antipasto to baked ziti, specialty gourmet burgers, over 30 different kinds of pizza, and that steak and cheese. Come on in and they'll show you why they made a reputation as being the best steak and cheese sub in the area. There's nobody that puts it together like your friends at the Briantville Pizza Kitchen. Chicken wings and fingers and the famous flavors complement their stir-fry dinners. If subs and wraps aren't enough for your table tonight, expand into Greek and Caesar salads, maybe even a calzone. Anyway, it's all good at the Briantville Pizza Kitchen. And don't forget, invite them to your next catered event. They'll bring the food. Briantville Pizza Kitchen. Call them at 781-293-9857. Have you heard about Pembroke Collision? Price and quality don't often collide under the same roof. Not so at Pembroke Collision at 192 Manakeesit Street in Pembroke. Pembroke Collision will work with you and your insurance company to get you back on the road in a safe and satisfactory vehicle. Put your trust in Ben Bastianelli and his crew at Pembroke Collision. Just call 781-293-4040 or find them on Facebook. Pembroke Collision, happy to work for you.
Paul Ponders continues on 95.9 WATD. Once again, Paul Solano.
We are back, and thanks for listening to Paul Ponders on WATD. Again, the call-in number is 781-837-4900, and we're right in the middle of the financial wing of Olympic Proportion segment with Olympian and former Boston Bruins winger Dave Jensen, Senior Loan Officer for Riverworks Credit Union. So, Dave, welcome back.
Thanks, Paul.
Absolutely. So, as I said earlier, this is the Four Nations face-off. I guess they're having some festival over at City Hall Plaza today and tomorrow. Hopefully the weather holds out really well tomorrow. But tell us about this tournament that's going on in lieu of the All-Star break, in lieu of the All-Star game, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is this year. And they did announce that they're going to the Olympics are coming up next year, and the NHL plans to be a part of it in 2026. And then in 2028, they're going to have the World Cup, and they're in the process of taking bids for cities to host that. So it's very exciting, Paul, because everyone wants to see these days the best on best, right? And that's what it is. Obviously, you can always debate on any of these teams, like this guy could have been here over that guy. But when you're talking about Connor McDavid and, Sidney Crosby in Canada, the best of the best are in these tournaments. So to me, it's exciting. Even as a little kid, thinking about the greatest players playing Bobby Orr, I love to see the best from each country face against the best from other countries. And there's a lot of parity these days. The U.S., 40, 50 years ago, they weren't at the level of the Russians or the U.S., or Canada. But it's really, the growth of hockey in America and just the skills training and everything that's advanced. It's made it so much more exciting to watch because each team has a chance to win.
You're absolutely right. And if you looked at the rosters of BU and BC in the Beanpot final, sort of sad that I am sad, really, that BC lost the other night. But it's one of those things. If you look at those players for both of those rosters, already drafted by so many pro teams.
Yeah, I think pretty much if you're playing Division I college, you're probably drafted somewhere. It's uncommon now, as opposed to, like I said, a few decades ago, that anyone playing Division I isn't a drafted hockey player. So it's a testament of college sports now and really development of hockey, in North America, especially the United States.
Absolutely. And, of course, you have all those junior hockey programs. I know of the Warrior Youth Hockey Program up in the Merrimack Valley area. There are a lot of elite teams out there, right?
Yeah, there certainly are. There's so many different options these days as opposed to when I grew up, it was pretty much town hockey, and then you had the ISL or the Catholic Conference to go to. Now it seems like the best players are using the ISL, Catholic Conference as a stepping stone to play, the local junior organizations. Unless you're a first-round draft pick, Paul, that's you're 21 or 22 before you're a freshman in college because there's so much development now.
Absolutely. And also, we might as well give a shout-out to brother Michael Boyle out there, Arthur's brother, Dave Boyle's brother, with Mike Boyle Strength and Conditioning in Body by Boyle, where Mike is working with a lot of hockey players in the strength and conditioning world with when Bob Hansen and Mike Boyle were doing that quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Mike's a legend. I actually... that started coming to fruition. If Mike remembers, he was the conditioning coach for Boston University way back when. Do you know Mike well?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So there was a handful of guys, and my agent was Bobby Murray, who's he's a Boston University All-American and just a great guy, going back to the '80s. And Paul put together training for professionals over the summer, and that was sort of, I believe, and Mike would speak to this, then he started training all the Bruins, but that was the beginning of it back in the mid-'80s when I remember driving to BU in the summers to work out with Paul, and he had these synthetic socks. He was way ahead of his time as far as these training boards for skating strides and everything else, off-ice training. None better than Mike Boyle and his operation. Just a great guy.
Absolutely, without a doubt, and he's really just built an incredible operation, and he speaks all over the world on strength and conditioning. He's really great. So shout out to Mike Boyle, again, part of the Boyle family. This is still the Boiling Point slot, so it's all good in the hood, as they say. And also a shout out with Bob Murray. I didn't realize that you had Bob as an agent, but I had a lot of dealings with him when I was working as Director of Institutional Advancement back at Malden Catholic between 1999 and 2003, and I had great interactions with Bob and with Keith Kachuk, who was a Malden Catholic graduate, and his brother Kevin was the head hockey coach at MC at the time, and we built the Valley Forum rink in Malden, and we built Malden Catholic locker room, and Keith was very instrumental with the Malden Catholic alumni, but Bob Murray was a great guy to deal with.
Yeah, he certainly was, and thinking back in these names, the original guys that started there at BU. Keith Tkachuk was one of them. Joey Sacco, the head coach of the Bruins now, and Joey was my roommate on that 91-92 national team in the World Championships, and just a great guy from Medford. So was Keith. Tkachuk, he was young too, back in '92. I think he was it's like 20 years old, sophomore at BU coming out.
Absolutely, you're right. And funny story about Joe Sacco. Joe was actually a recipient of an award. I believe Joe Amorosino, if Joe is listening, hello, Joe. Hope all is going well. Joe's in the Quincy Braintree area, but Joe Sacco was an honoree of the National Italian-American Sports Hall of Fame, Massachusetts chapter, and I'm on the board of that, and I had great interactions with Joe Sacco, so he's doing a fine job. I hope he's lost the interim label, and I hope he's a full-time coach. I haven't heard that if he is officially, but he's doing a really, really fine job, and he's going to take us into the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I agree with you. And no better guy, too. I've known Joey since, like I said, he was like 20 years old back then. And there's no better guy. And what a great hockey, team guy and great knowledge of the game. So I'm rooting for him, too, Paul. I hope they take that tag off and let Joey, help build into the future.
Absolutely, without a doubt. So regarding this Four Nations face-off and all, is this a double elimination? How does it work with this tournament?
It's kind of weird how the international points are structured, but I believe this is how it goes. It's 3 points for a win, 2 points for a win in overtime or a shootout, whatever happens there, 1 point for an overtime, just like the NHL, and 0 points obviously if you lose in regulation, and then between the round robin, you got to add up those points, and the top two will face off in the championship game, and then the bottom. The Olympics are formatted like this too. You take your points, and there's probably and I haven't got that far, Paul, but there's probably a goals for, goals against. If let's just say 2 and 3 are tied, right, to move on, or 2, 3, and 4 are tied. Who knows, right? On points that I don't know, but that's how they'll do it. It's not like a quarterfinal type of thing, and you got to remember, because of world politics, this used to be the Four Nations was really the old Canada Cup, which is now the World Cup. It was usually 6 teams, and that included Russia and Czechoslovakia, right? The powerhouses of the world. But because of the war in Ukraine and all that, they narrowed it down to 4 teams, 4 nations. So it's a little tighter, right, as far as the teams, and you're missing some really unbelievable, like Pasta, right, playing for the Czech, and where Ovechkin, everyone else over in Russia. Hopefully they'll be back in time for the Olympics in 2026 and everything's resolved on the world stage. But yeah, so the points are a little complicated, right, when it comes to that. And I'm assuming they would go for goals for, goals against if there's a tie. But that's how I know it's structured. And we'll see how it shakes out. The U.S. won in regulation, obviously, and it was they had a great third period the other night. So they got 3 points. Canada won in overtime. They got 2 points now. I believe Sweden has 1 because they took Canada overtime. So this is a big game tonight, but so is the next game when U.S. plays Sweden. I think that's on Monday.
I believe so.
That's back in Boston, I believe.
Is that at 1 o'clock? Are there 2 on Monday?
I think so, because and I think that that's actually the 8 o'clock game. Canada's playing Finland at 1, on Monday. And I'm trying to visualize it. I looked at the schedule, I think it was yesterday, or I was watching the game. And today at 1 o'clock is Sweden-Finland. That's a huge rivalry. They can't stand each other. It's like the Bruins in Montreal, that rivalry over there. So that's on at 1 o'clock when we get off. I'm looking forward to watching that game. And then Canada-U.S. tonight, 8 o'clock. That's just going to be something, in my opinion, to watch.
Without a doubt. And I think it's really cool that they selected 2 of the original 6 cities to host the games in Montreal and Boston.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, when you think about it, right, as far as hockey goes, what's, what is exemplary of hockey, as far as going way back, is Boston, Montreal. And I don't think there's any bigger rivalry in sports. Maybe the Red Sox, Yankees, but... yeah, it's unbelievable. I'm a little surprised, too, Paul, that championships aren't in Montreal just because that's really religion, you know what I mean, up there. And if there was going to be a one in hockey, it would probably be Montreal, obviously, right?
Right.
Just like I feel like the Celtics in basketball, you know, that type of thing.
Right.
Like they're the premier organization. They've won the most, you know, championships, or I think they have, with LA right there. Montreal's kind of that got that repertoire for sure. So I'm surprised but pleased that, you know, championships are back here, you know?
Right.
The preliminary round really, is up there. So that's good for Boston.
You know, it's going to be really cool to hear, you know, in that final game, hopefully USA is in it, but that USA chant. Now,
it's
unbelievable, I bet, huh? Now,
yeah, I mean, the chills that you get when you hear that. We were fortunate enough to play. It was on national TV right before Christmas back in '83, before the Olympics would start in '84, early February, to play the Russians, and it was at Lake Placid in the building. It was like build a rematch, right, from 1980, and we actually beat them 4-3, just like in '80. And our captain, who wasn't really a goal scorer, he was more of a fourth line player type of thing, scored the winning goal. So it was something to watch. But I remember the introductions, Paul. I still have it on video, you know, somewhere where it was sent to me. The introductions are just you couldn't hear it. It was the building was shaking, and it was just what a thrill that was, indescribable thrill.
Wow, tremendous. So, who do you think? We'll say the USA is going to be in the final game. We'll be optimistic there. Who do you think we'll be facing off against in the final game?
I think it's going to be the Canada and U.S., and I think it's that's going to be, that could go either way. I think the U.S. has the best roster, though. I really do. I think it's the best team ever assembled under the United States for a hockey team.
Wow. And you said that Billy Guerin is the team manager, the team president?
Yeah, he's the general manager. Yep. Billy's the general manager. And Billy's a good friend and a great man. He played at BC, as you know, right?
Absolutely.
There's none better. Hockey players and those relationships, I think I said this before, and that's the true value. The games were unbelievable, but the relationships are what it's all about at the end of the day.
Oh, really? Without a doubt. It's so cool out there. And do you have any Boston Bruins Alumni Association games coming up?
Well, I think, they're up in Montreal right now at a fundraiser. So, having it be sort of the weekend, the holiday weekends, usually it's a light weekend on holidays because people do like to travel and get away,
Right.
But every weekend there's games, Paul. If you go on the Boston Bruins alumni page, you'll see the schedule.
Absolutely. And we'll be talking more in future weeks about the April 19th game over in Winthrop at the Eruzione Rink with the Boston All-Stars with Mr. Kevin Childs and his crew. So looking forward to that. So Dave Jensen, I want to thank you again for being on this segment of the financial wing of Olympic Proportion. And until we meet again next week, you have a great week and enjoy the game, my friend.
Thanks. So let me say Kevin Childs is the best. I got to give him a shout out.
I agree with you. Totally agree with you on that one. He's a great friend.
Right, thanks, Paul.
Be well now. Take care, my friend.
You too.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Well, I want you to stay tuned to WATD for the Memories with Ron Dwyer, the grand poobah of oldies rock and roll. Ron, I know you're not cringing too much with the affectionate reference. You are a true leader of the pack of great musical memories of yesteryear. So thank you, Ron. Listeners can go to paulponders.com to find subscription links to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube, as well as find Paul Ponders on WATD shows. Thanks again to Tim, Arthur Boyle, and our advertisers, but really thank you, listeners in WATD world and beyond. Keep Paul pondering. #Indeed.